Hey guys, today in this video I want to speak about the importance of making sure that when you're buying seasoning blends and stuff like that and seasoning that's already pre-packaged, that you're looking at the ingredient list, because I'm gonna tell you a story. So recently I bought my usual seasoning blends, my usual ones from Tropical Sun, Dunn's River, etc. So seasoning blends, if you don't know, are basically seasoning that is packaged or already pre-blended. So for example, you've got Cajun seasoning is an array of seasonings, or Jamaican all-purpose seasoning is an array of different seasonings. You can buy them in the shops, especially in the UK, they're quite prominent. But I wanted to speak about some of the issues that I personally have experienced with buying them and why, for my health, I no longer buy them. And I advise anyone who's going through similar symptoms or wants to take just that bit better care of their health should follow. So let's talk about the incident that led me to this video idea. So it was about 3 days ago, I went to the shop and I brought oxtail seasoning blend and Jamaican all-purpose seasoning blend from the brand Tropical Sun. Both of these contain salt as a first ingredient, but I had used them before and I never had any reaction and something like that, and just no reactions. I was using them in my cooking for the last 2 to 3 days, and I was using them as a seasoning for my jackfruit. So I've been using these in the jackfruit seasoning blend that I make. I marinate the jackfruit, cook it, whatever I've been doing, making lovely recipes with it. But I was noticing that I was eating and I wasn't feeling full. I was getting bloated, but I wasn't feeling full. It was like there was no connection between my mind and my stomach telling me that it's full and it needs to, like, we don't need to eat anymore. It wasn't happening. It was similar to how ultra processed foods work in your body. So essentially what ultra processed foods do, or most of them, it's more to be addictive, so a nice taste, but it's not going to fill you up, and it has lots of empty nutrition, which just results in you just overeating something that isn't actually give you any proper nutrition. So that's what it felt like. And my stomach felt very hot, like almost like acidic, and I was kept drinking water as well after eating. I just kept drinking, but I wasn't going to the toilet. And this was happening for 2 days in a row. Like, I didn't feel good in my body at all. Like, my whole body just felt like it was on fire, essentially. And I knew that salt, especially in seasoning blends, wasn't good for you, but to feel the effects to that amount was insane. The bloating, to even drink water, I just wasn't getting hydrated. Like, my body was holding on to so much sodium and so much water. So it was very interesting, and I think it makes you think as well that so many of us are actually experiencing this, but we don't even know, you see. And it's very, very interesting. And after all of that happened, I threw out the seasoning blend, and then I started using whole spices. So for example, allspice, Chinese 5-spice, cumin. And even if I bought seasoning blends, for example, Chinese 5-spice is a seasoning blend, it doesn't have any salt in it. I started seasoning my food with them. Instantly my food tasted better. It tasted more fresh. It was just better. And after utilizing just these whole spices and no salt, and if I was going to use salt, I would do something like coconut aminos, just stuff that has very little salt, basically. And if I really needed salt, I would just add sea salt. Instantly after I ate the food that had no seasoning blends or excess salt, it completely changed everything. My whole body literally just felt better completely. And it's quite funny because I did this yesterday, and I was doing some research about ways to kind of help your body soak up or remove the excess sodium. They recommended potassium, and bananas was on top of the list, and they also recommended avocados. So I've been eating bananas like crazy. I think I've eaten, like, in the last 24 hours, I've eaten like 8 bananas, but that has also helped with this excess sodium intake that I have. But it's so crazy how literally night and day of not eating something they introduce to your diet in just 2 days completely wrecked my gut. And it's very telling, you know, it's very telling of how companies are also, especially these seasoning companies, are selling it straight to especially black people and people minority. You know, we use these brands the most, and it's us that are dealing with these effects such as hypertension, stuff like this. And I'd even go further to say it wasn't just that irritated my gut, it was also the citric acid and anti-caking agents. So within the seasoning blends, they have anti-caking agents for whatever reason. It's probably to do with just to stop it from like caking essentially, which is so funny because it still cakes. Very, very funny, but it still cakes. But regardless of what the use is, it's very interesting because now it's like that citric acid also was irritating my gut, and my gut just was in havoc. Like the way I looked and felt within my own body is crazy. And it wasn't even a good time for this to happen because I have injured my foot, and I'm a big believer. And what I do usually with my diet is if I've got an injury, then I would slightly tailor my diet in order for my body to at least get maximum nutrition, so the healing process is much easier and much more streamlined for me. But this wasn't helping either, and it just goes to show how important it is to be using whole spices and not relying so much on salt, and controlling the salt you have in your food, because it will affect you, especially if you do this over a long period of time. And it's the reason why I think it's affected me particularly in my situation really badly is because my usual diet doesn't have those seasoning blends. I don't usually buy those seasoning blends quite a lot, and if I do, like, they only have like seasoning ingredients or spices. They don't have particularly things like just mainly 98% salt. Like, no, that's not what I buy. But you know, I think my diet from since I switched plant-based, if I go back or backtrack to anything such as excess salt, excess processed sugars, stuff like that, my body just implodes like it's a day and night thing. So yeah, this was my experience with just like seasoning blends, and why I'm now feeling very cool to recommend anyone who feels like, you know, the seasoning blends that they're using contain a lot of salt and citric acid and things like that isn't benefiting their health, just to throw them out and just get your whole spices, because food tastes better. You obviously have to adjust to the lack of salt, but when you can utilize spices in a way that salt doesn't need to be the main reason why your food tastes good, it's amazing. I was speaking to an Italian shopkeeper yesterday about this, and she said, you know, salt is more of a flavor enhancer, and that's how I see it now. If I want to add salt, it's more for a flavor enhancement than it actually is to be relied on. And there's also health benefits to spices as well, which I'd love to speak about in another video, and just talk about how I utilize spices in order to get their benefits and whatnot. But again, this is just like my anecdotal experience of using spice blends and why I genuinely think like they're not it. Do you know what I mean? They're not it. And if you want to really take care and be able to, you know, keep your body working functional and healthy and not deal with things like excess salt and sodium, and keep your hydration and just keep your body nice, treat your body nice, then I would recommend probably just throwing out the seasoning blends. But I would say if you really like the seasoning blend, look at all the ingredients and then just buy them separately. That's what I would say. Even if you want a bit of salt, buy that separately. Buy sea salt, Celtic salt, pink Himalayan salt. You know, you've got black lava salt. You've got so many different salts you can choose from essentially. But making sure that, you know, you're buying salts that have minerals, that are sourced from places where it's from the earth essentially, and it's not just this overly processed thing, which I would love to speak about in other videos, about just processed sugar, things like that. But yeah, I think that is just everything I wanted to speak about today, just about my experience. And again, I always try and speak from experience, especially through like health, wellness, life experiences, stuff like that, because to actually experience something, it gives you a new, deeper perspective, and you can look at the perspective from how you was thinking when you were in the experience and how you was thinking now as you're coming from a wider perspective onto why that may have happened and how you reacted to the situation. But yeah, that's me. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will be able to support with any questions that you have about different seasonings that I recommend, what blends to go for instead of the mainly salt ones. And I'll definitely do videos of different seasoning blends that you could make. I think that'd be a really good idea, just to kind of like get some videos and content surrounding different seasoning blends, different salt blends. So I definitely will be doing that. So I hope you lot have a blessed rest of your day, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you.